Mondays with Monsignor Pope, here on Morning Joy, where truth matters.
Welcome back to Morning Joy, where truth matters. I'm your host, Keith Downey, and we're going to talk about a subject that's very interesting. What does the Bible mean by the dead coming forth from the tombs when Jesus died on the cross? Good morning, Monsignor Charles Pope.
Good morning. No, sorry, I start coughing as soon as I start talking to you. I'm sorry. There's a passage kind of looking back to the Good Friday, or it would seem, but maybe not. So let's take a look there. Here's the passage, that I do get questions. People kind of scratch their head when it doesn't occur in the lectionary in Mass, but when they do see it, like, whoa, what's this? And so here it is. This is Jesus has just died on the cross. This is in Matthew 27. And the bodies of many saints who had fallen asleep were raised, and coming forth from their tombs after his resurrection, they entered the holy city and appeared to many. All right, so there's our mysterious text. We got a zombie parade walking through. I had to go there. I'm sorry, but we have we have this very interesting little text, again, it's we're left to kind of ponder the details, but likely just the biblical background of it is there's a couple of prophecies. There's Ezekiel, where Ezekiel in the 37th chapter says, prophesy and tell them, this is what the Lord God says, my people, I will open your graves and bring you up from them, and I'll bring you back to the land of Israel. Then you, my people, will know that I am the Lord when I open your graves and bring you up from them. And so that's one of the prophecies. And then Hosea in the 13th chapter says, I will ransom them from the power of Sheol, namely the place of the dead. I will redeem them from death. Oh, where, death, are your plagues? Where, Sheol, is your sting? Okay, so that's from Hosea. So there are some prophecies that seem to say that when the Lord would bring his redemptive work, that this would happen. So, but I think, we often read a lot into this passage. It's not real clear the time frame. Is Matthew saying that this is he saying that happening literally at the very moment that Jesus died on the cross, that suddenly tombs opened and people started walking around, appearing to the people in Jerusalem? And is he saying that? Or is he saying that, the time frame isn't absolutely clear? It could be that he is referring to these prophecies. But let's go right to St. Thomas Aquinas. I think is probably handles this the most thoroughly. And he also follows St. Jerome. He's largely quoting St. Jerome and what he says. So let's take a look here. Thomas says, first of all, Thomas doesn't think that this event of the dead, the tombs opening and the dead walking all through Jerusalem, he doesn't think this happened at the very moment of the Lord's death, but after the Lord's resurrection. And so that he thinks that Matthew puts it here as a kind of a proleptic. A proleptic means something that is talked about now, but it's referring to something that happens in the future, as if it were now. For an example might be, when Jesus called Peter the rock, Peter wasn't rock. He was sort of taking that future Peter and saying, this is who you are now too, but clearly in seed form. So Peter would become the rock, but he wasn't the rock, and so on. So with all that in mind, that's what we call a proleptic. Now, further, though, Thomas speculates on the possibility that the holy city they walk through, which everyone thinks is Jerusalem, that it may not have been Jerusalem at all, but the holy city called heaven. Jerome says it was the heavenly city, the heavenly Jerusalem. So although the ancient Jerusalem was called the holy city, it wasn't holy because of, at that time it had been holy. It would become holy one day, but therefore the Lord is the scripture here is referring to the holy city, which is the heavenly Jerusalem, and he appeared to many there. And so he concludes that they rose on the they rose and they did not die again at some later time. So there is usually a question about these people. If did they rise again and then go back into a tomb and die? It's agreed that some have arisen and later died, like Lazarus, but no one can talk about these people. We don't know. We don't know about them because they rose for the manifestation of Christ's resurrection. And so again, I think the basic way to understand all of this is that the time frame is not that clear in the text, and likewise, even the identification of the holy city through which they walked, although it immediately seems like it could be Jerusalem, is probably the heavenly Jerusalem. So, any rate, there's some other church fathers, but we could talk about. But that at least gets us started.
Right. We did have a question from our YouTube stream, and you kind of touched on it a little bit, but this is the question, are these also the ones that Jesus took up with him when he ascended?
Yeah, I mean, on some level, yes. I think we could also say that those would be the souls in Sheol, though, as well. Yeah, so some of them would have been, evidenced in these bodies that seem to have appeared. It says in the Bible, yeah, that when the Lord arose, when the Lord ascended, I should say, he took with him a host of captives, and so on. So yeah, but at any rate, in fact, one of the church fathers, Remigius, he says, we ought therefore to believe without hesitation that those who rose from the dead at the Lord's passion and resurrection also ascended into heaven together with him. All right. Yeah, it's most of the fathers of the church do spiritualize the event. And they say that they see it as historical, but their main emphasis is that this is historical, but that it has a spiritual meaning. Okay, so yeah. Did you say there was another YouTube question, or is that it?
That was the one we had for now, but actually I had a question. So we have a lot of information from the church fathers. Has the Catholic Church itself have said anything about this in general, or is this more or less just strictly from the church fathers?
Yeah, no, this is one of those texts that's left to speculation and opinion. The church doesn't have a dogmatic teaching on every verse of scriptures. This wouldn't be that at that level. It's kind of the opinions of some of the prophets, of the church fathers, and so we see that. Let me just give you the sort of spiritualization that Origen gives. It says these same mighty works are, in other words, the dead rising from the dead and the temple veil being rent and so on, are still being done every day. These same mighty works are done every day. The veil of the temple is rent for the saints in order to reveal the things that are contained within. The earthquakes, that is all flesh, because of the new world and the new things of the New Testament. Rocks are rent, namely the mystery of the prophets, that we may see spiritual mysteries. Graves of the bodies of sinful souls, that is the souls of souls dead to God. But when God's grace touches them, these souls are raised, and their bodies, which were therefore where their graves are left behind, and so on. So all these sort of mysteries continue, and so on. Now, so let's go back to the fundamental question: Is Matthew saying really like zombies? People who were dragging their grave clothes behind them as they sort of lurched through the streets? And the answer is no. Let's go back to Matthew's text. He says, the bodies of many of the saints who had fallen asleep were raised, and coming forth from their tomb after his resurrection, they entered the holy city and appeared to many. Now, notice again, this idea of the zombies walking and lurching through, that's not even in Matthew's mind. That's a modern thing based on a movie, all right? But the bodies of many saints were raised, all right? Coming forth from their tombs. It says they appeared to many. Sometimes the dead appear to us now. We have many apparitions, if you will, of ghosts or apparitions of some of the saints or things. So it's not like this never happens now, that the dead appear. to us. So we have that, and so we need to avoid overly reading into a text like that people were literally, the tomb lids were flying off and people were walking out of graveyards, and kind of people were stopped in their traffic while I am the undead come walking through. So
what could with all this being said, what does this mean for our own lives?
Yeah. So yes, for us. Well, again, this is going to happen for all of us one day, that our tombs will arise or open, and our bodies will be restored to us. Now, it will be truly our bodies, whatever remains of our bodies. But let's not turn it into a cartoonish idea either, where the Lord's going to say, "No, I know that right tibia is around here somewhere. If I can look a little harder, I'll find it." But that rather that our souls is the nature of our souls to produce a body. And we take then, you notice again, even our bodies now, very few of our cells are actually with us our whole lifetime. We slough off a lot of those cells and they're replaced with new ones. Certain, I guess, examples of that are different, like our brain is different. For some reason, that's not the case. I guess it's a good reason, because we could literally lose memories if it's bad enough that we have a bad memory. But all that said, our bodies will truly rise, and they'll be glorified bodies. And not this sort of zombie-like, dragging your grave clothes behind you. So again, these are the things that, for us, that the dead will rise. Now, by the way, the word resurrection, I'm afraid that some people kind of misunderstand it. I see we got the music coming, but resurrection refers not so much to the soul, which is already immortal, but to the fact that our bodies will one day rise. And so again,
thank you.
I hope that was.
Oh, absolutely helpful. Thank you so much, Monsignor Charles Pope. Always a pleasure to have you on your morning segment. We can also catch you on A Life Lived Joyfully, weekdays at 4 p.m. on the Guadalupe Radio Network. But you heard the music. Yes, it's the end of our first hour. I'd like to thank all those listening from Aquinas Communications and for those that are going to their destinations. But hey, there is still a lot coming up on our second hour. Talking with Catholic speaker and founder of Word Ablaze, John Sablon, as well as so much more. Make sure to visit GRN Online YouTube, and we'll see you right after this break. Morning Joy.
This has been Morning Joy, where truth matters, hosted by Keith Downey. Take some joy with you today. Visit grnonline.com/joy to listen again, share a segment, or answer the question of the day. That's grnonline.com/joy.